Last night, Nancy Pelosi backed off today as the date she would finally hold the House vote for the bipartisan infrastructure bill, despite previous plans to do so. Representative Josh Gottheimer wasted no time in upping the pressure as he made media rounds, claiming there was no reason to hold off. Here he is on CNN's State of the Union.
We all agree that we need a reconciliation package, and I think that's important for everyone to understand. But that doesn't mean these are two separate bills, right? You've got infrastructure and historic once in a century. There's no reason why we shouldn't pass that right away and get those shovels in the ground and make sure we can do everything we can to stop, derailments and invest in our infrastructure and climate and make sure we fight climate change. And then also we should keep working on this separate bill on reconciliation, which I'm committed to passing, and
right.
As Pramila said, we're talking all the time to make sure we can get that done as well.
Meanwhile, House progressives have told Pelosi they won't vote for the infrastructure bill unless the $3.5 trillion budget resolution is also ready for a vote. Pelosi maintains that will also occur this week.
Meanwhile, another moderate holdout, Senator Kyrsten Sinema, is facing censure from her own party if she doesn't support the legislation. The Arizona Democratic Party passed a resolution pledging a vote of no confidence in the senator if she does not support either the reconciliation package and/or ending the filibuster. New reporting from The Intercept also alleges Sinema courted private equity donors through a winery she interned at over the summer of 2020. Team Rising is here with us to discuss. Joining us are founders of New Day Strategy and former Obama administration alum Roger Fisk, and culture editor at The Federalist, Emily Jashinsky. Welcome, Roger and Emily. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning.
Hey, guys.
So I'll start with you, Emily. What is this wine fundraiser internship? What are we supposed to make of this story? The senator is just a fan, I take it, of a good rosé.
I mean, aren't we all? I think that's to the extent that Sinema is representative, and I don't think she would even deny this, of the way sort of Washington works and Washington gets things done. That's the way moderates like to phrase it. I think this is an example of that. I mean, I think you genuinely don't have much shame about doing that sort of thing. And honestly, in the scheme of scandals, this is really not that bad compared to scandals. I mean, we just have more information now about what Hunter Biden was up to. So in the scheme of all of the grift in Washington, this isn't that bad, but I do think it's sort of emblematic of the lack of shame that people who are part of the political establishment here in Washington have when it comes to that sort of thing.
And so, Roger, Kyrsten Sinema has told Democratic leaders that she will not support raising revenue by increasing corporate tax rates or increasing personal tax rates on the wealthy. How firm do you suspect that she is in that stance? And if she is firm, what on earth is the path toward actually putting together a reconciliation package? Where do you get the money? I can't imagine the coal-producing Joe Manchin, as chair of the Energy Committee, putting together a carbon tax over the next week.
Right. Well, first off, good morning, Ryan and Robbie, and thank you for having me on with Emily. It's a slow news week. I think we can all agree. And also, we should state, and this is something that maybe we can all celebrate, there's now vineyards in all 50 states of our great union. So this is welcome news for all of us, I think. To your specific question, there's going to be a tenuous and as vague as possible, but as specific as needed to get the Problem Solver Caucus, the Squad, et cetera, roughly on the same page for about 72 hours. I think what this will end up looking like, and I'll throw, obviously, Senator Sinema and Manchin into that as well. What I think this will end up looking like is a standalone traditional infrastructure bill with some kind of clear understanding about the larger kind of family-based infrastructure bill coming in short order soon after that. That's the language of that timing is probably where Speaker Pelosi is focused right now and how binding those commitments are. But I would imagine by probably close of business Wednesday or Thursday, especially after the caucus lunches and et cetera, we'll have a sense of how this is going to play out. But I think it's going to be a 1-2 step situation, but with some kind of clear understanding and some guarantees about how close that second step is to the first.
Emily, is the current dysfunction in the Democratic Party, this showdown between moderates and progressives over whether we're going to spend $1 trillion or gazillion dollars. Is this an opportunity for conservatives, for the Republican Party to capitalize on this at all? Obviously, Joe Biden is currently facing very bad approval numbers. How will the right translate this to some kind of political advantage?
It's an interesting question. Actually, Charles Cook had a piece in National Review last week wondering where all of the Americans who are outraged by the proposal of $3.5 trillion in spending, where are they? Why are they not on the streets? And I think that question is an instructive one because nobody really cares. So I think to that extent, I mean, people want the government to work for them, and they want more, like if it's going to take more money to get the government to work, it's hard to even process these numbers, so do it. And that's why I think this is not really much of an opportunity for Republicans in terms of like exploiting the spending in the way that it would have been 10 years ago or maybe 20 years ago. People feel like the country is utterly broken now. This is not the Make America Great Again of the Reagan years. This is something entirely different. And so I think to capitalize on it, the right actually needs to come forward with really serious ideas. And those are, difficult conversations to have, but it can't just be sort of like jumping on the debt and the deficit in a Tea Party way. That's
well,
not
and also no one, if they did that, no one would believe, I wouldn't believe them. If the Republicans started saying they cared about the debt, we would all burst into, we're all laughing.
Yeah, they don't care about it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Roger, has that penetrated among the kind of Democratic operative class, this idea that they don't have to be as afraid of being labeled tax and spend liberals as they used to?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the unspoken foundations of the conversation that's happening in the Democratic Party, and roughly to kind of build on Emily's point in a way, is at least it's a difference of opinions about what to do for the American people. And you can agree or disagree. I'd much prefer having this argument with all the kind of fractured elements of it and somewhat of the traditional Democratic circular firing squad, as opposed to the conversation that's going on within the Republican Party, which is, do we abide by the fundamental pillars of democracy or not? So, yeah, we can see the Arizona Democratic Party passing a resolution about Senator Sinema. We also see some of these complete invertebrate Republican leaders in a handful of states around the country surrendering themselves to something that, for all our forensic capacity in the 21st century, is an absolute 100% provable, demonstrable lie. And they are willing to surrender themselves entirely to it. So I would much prefer having the conversation about billions and millions and to what degree we want to do something about ports and bridges and roads and daycare than the discussion in the Republican Party, which is, do we subscribe to the Western Democratic experiment anymore or not?
Yeah. Next on Rising, policy analyst Stephen Semler breaks down defense industry ties to the Democrats who voted no on reducing the Pentagon's budget. Stay tuned.